Today I'm joined by the Cruz team Realty here. Derek Cruz and Regina Cruz. How you guys doing?
Good.
Doing great.
Good.
Yeah.
How's business going? I know you guys are currently right now in Santa Monica doing a lot of open houses, right? Over there in
We've been lucky enough to be able to cover one of the Meritage employees on their vacation time for the entire month of this entire month, actually. So Thursday through Sunday. So, the market's been tough no matter what. I think that the market's been tough, and San Marcos is the area that we're located in is a very unique area because it's not very close to the freeway. It's mostly locals that have lived there for 20 or 30 years. There's not a whole lot of exposure to that new home community because not a whole lot of people know about it. And the builder, because there's only 120 units, they are not planning on doing a whole lot of advertising because they figure once word gets out, then they're not going to need to do thousands and tens of thousands of dollars of advertising once the word gets out. But in the meantime, since this particular community has opened here, which has been just I would say just going on 3 weeks now at this point in time, it has been slow in the way of foot traffic and people count, but it has been good in the way of the amount of traffic that we're getting there is pretty high quality.
Oh, that's good.
It's pretty high quality.
The people that do show up are the people quality. That's good.
Right. So, and it's funny because it ends up being that in San Marcos over there, most people have been living there for 20 or 30 years. So you've got this aging group of clients that are walking through. We happen to be right next to a CVS. So here you have a lot of retired clients that are coming in, not initially to see the community, but to go to CVS to pick up their medication.
That's crazy.
Right. So, and then there's a drive-through CVS. So it's like
saw that.
they sit there at the drive-through and they're getting their medication, but at the same time, I'm sitting up here at the balcking with one of the models, and I'm kind of, if they happen to catch my eye, I'm waving at them, going like, "Hey, stop by if you want to." But it's real interesting because most of the clientele is 70 plus, and they're not looking for a 3-story townhome.
Oh yeah.
So here we have this dilemma of if 80% of the clientele that's coming through who's lived there for the last 20 or 30 years, and they're looky-looing, and they're like, oh, 3 stories, this is not for me, because I'm 70. It's about how do you have a conversation with those people to where it might be able to turn into something else, because if you've been here for 20 or 30 years in the community, you probably know some people.
Oh, yeah.
You probably maybe even have family or kids, and a lot of times what we're finding is that they've got kids that are living with them in their mid-30s.
Oh, yeah.
Who've been living with them for the last, all their life.
All their life.
And they've got good jobs, but they just simply can't afford to.
They don't have down payment or just,
You know what I mean? They can't afford a $6,000 a month payment, but they are buyers. They're out there, and they're like, if I could afford to get one of these, I would do it. Now, the few and far between is that we'll get now I think the word is starting to get out there. So we're starting to get some of the crowd to come out from the Vista area of San Diego.
Oh, okay.
Which this crowd, they seem to be the younger crowd. Some of them seem to be active duty military, and they're already paying rents of upwards of $3,000 to $4,000 per month. So slowly and organically, the word has started to get out in the couple of weeks that they've been open, and we're starting to see this crowd come out from this area, and they're starting to say, hey, what is it going to take for me to get into one of these homes, and can you run me a payment to see what it's going to get into? So we have one of these buyers, and he's a young guy. He's active duty in the military. Down there in San Diego, you got a lot of military down there, right? So this guy's active duty in the military, and he comes in and he has an appointment on a weekday. I remember it was a Thursday, and he has an appointment. 11 o'clock appointment. I'm here, and I want to come and see these homes. And he's here with his mom. So he's probably in his early to mid 30s, and he's got his mom. His mom's a traditional, Asian woman, to where he's putting a lot of faith into mom about this decision that he's going to make. And mom's a big deciding factor, if she has to buy it. So anyway, long story short, he looks at a couple of different homes that he's already seen these online. He's done a little bit of research, he goes in there and I walk him into the building that we're selling. And, you know, he looks at 3 or 4 different ones and he's in there for like 30, 40 minutes to the point to where I'm like, look, man, why don't you just go ahead and, you know, you take all the time you need with you and your mom, walk through every single, I don't care if you want to walk through every single unit in this whole entire building. There's 8 units to a building. And take your time. And then when you're ready, come back to me. I'm going to be right here at the office. And whatever questions you need, I got you, right? So he takes a whole nother full hour out there with his mom taking videos and everything. Yeah. So his appointment's at 11 and he's coming, walking back in at like 1 or 1:30 going like, okay, I've got some questions. And you know, I know that you don't stay for, you know, 3 hours unless you're seriously thinking about, you know, and you're taking video and you got your mom there and this is your first home. And he's told me he's already gotten pre-qualified with the VA because he's active duty. And so he's already pretty savvy about stuff, you know, and he's starting to settle down. So he's settling on these 2 different locations on these townhomes. One's a corner unit, one's just, you know, an inside unit on the building. And he's like, you know, there's 2 different prices on these. You know, the corner unit's 12 grand more. This guy's pretty savvy in knowing what the market's like. And he's like, do you think that the builder would maybe give me the inside unit that has a better view? Because I like that one better, for the same price as the corner unit, which is like 12 grand more. You know, so this starts the whole negotiation process. He eventually does get pre-qualified. He's very, very, very well qualified, almost overqualified. This guy's been saving up years to buy a house and been living with mom, and his credit is perfect. And he's active duty military, VA. So this is the best case possible scenario buyer that you could have that is totally capable, willing, and wanting this house. So as a real estate agent in today's market, nobody's going to let go of somebody like that.
Those are the ones you look for, yeah.
Okay, so anyway, this whole last week has been back and forth negotiation. He's asked me to represent him, okay? Now, the caveat to this, okay, I have it on text. If you can represent me, please, of course,
negotiating
I will represent you. And if you can get this price for me and you can get them to do this and get them to do this, please go to work. I'm like, let me go to work for you, right? Now, here's the whole deal. Today, this morning,
so
as we have
getting what he wants, all that stuff.
We've got a final, you know, back and forth. So we have a final offer from the builder to where we are at the end. It is literally the deal that he wants, that he's asked for, with the minor exception of like he's not getting 1 year of age. We're so close. We're $3,000 off for the deal, where I'm confident he's gonna move forward.
He's gonna move forward,
yeah.
Okay.
So we're just waiting.
And so at this point in time, I've told him this is what the counteroffer is. I think he's at work right now, and he usually doesn't answer me till later in the day. So I think, you know, he hasn't responded back to me yet. But I'm like, what do you want to do? Because the next step, you got to put that deposit. We got to go to contract.
Yeah.
And he's stated that he wants to use his own lender, even though the incentive, he's like, no, I figured it out. It's cheaper with my own lender. I'm like, great. I just get that approval over to do whatever you want, man. I don't care. Get that approval over to the Meritage and put the deposit down. Let's go to contract. So I said, let me know your thoughts, because that's the next step. So an hour or 2 later, I get a call back from the sales agent over at Meritage. And she says to me, you know what's the funniest thing? I just got a call right now from another real estate agent, some guy from Trillion Real Estate, who said apparently my client, Brian, is negotiating on a home there. And it looks like he's in the final stages. That's my client. What do I need to do to make sure that I haven't signed him in or anything like that? Am I still good for this? So now the sales agent's calling me going like, you know, what's going on? And he says that he's got a BRBCA signed. And he's now asking the sales agent, does the agent that's helping my client, Brian, have a BRBCA signed with him? And here's the thing at this point in time. So what it comes down to is that there are some builders that will require you to have a BRBCA. And there are some builders that pay off of not representation, but purely off of procurement.
Procurement, we're registered, right?
So representation means that I don't care if you have a real estate agent that you've had for the last 10 years who's been your agent And I don't care, but if you scheduled this appointment without your agent, you walked in here, but he's been your agent the whole time, but he didn't schedule the appointment, which this was the case. He didn't schedule the appointment. He was nowhere to be found. Matter of fact, when this guy came in, he came in with just him and his mom. He scheduled the appointment by himself without the agent. He met me there as the agent that was doing the open house. We had a great relationship, and he text messaged me. I have the text message on my phone that says, if you can represent me, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so now we're at this head to where the agent has called me and said like, well, you know, this is what's going on. We have this agent that's called me right now. He says he's got a BRBCA and is asking whether or not you have a BRBCA. And so the question that I have back to the real estate company is, do you guys pay off of representation or do you pay off of procurement?
You're asking Meritage, right?
Meritage.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because my understanding is I used to be in employment with you guys as a sales agent.
Yeah,
and I've always understood that you guys do not work with car forms.
Mm-hmm. And
that you guys purely pay off of representation and not off of procurement and not representation. And that if a new agent were to come in today into your office, nowhere in your literature does it say that we require a BRBCA. All it says is that you need to sign your client in and scan this QR code, give us your information, your client's information. If you sign them in, good, boom, that's it. We got it on the day you're the procuring cause, and we pay off of procuring cause, not off of representation. So going back to the builder, I've told them and said, isn't this the case? Don't you guys pay off? And she says, yes, we have. That's the way that we do it. However, you know, I just wanted to let you know that we just got this phone call right now. So I don't know where it's at. And I said that, and promptly during that conversation, the sales agent says to me, by the way, Brian, the client, is calling me on the phone right now.
Yeah,
so I've got to get on the phone with him. And I said, bye, I will talk to you later and find out what he asked, because it's probably likely that his agent contacted him to say, by the way, I heard you were getting on a home right there and you're about to negotiate a deal and maybe go to contract. Remember that BRBCA that I signed with you? I'm about to get paid, brother.
Yeah.
But I have all the text negotiation and everything that shows that I've been working on the deal, and he asked me to represent him. So this is kind of like where I'm, you know, cruising right now. We're on pins and needles, you know. This might be an extremely, if the builder has told me that they're planning on backing me up and stating that we don't use car forms and we only pay off of representation. You're going to have to work that out with your own agent and tell them, look, that's just not the way that it works with new home. If it was a resale, that you have 100% case, but this is not a resale and this is new home. So it's a little bit different that way. That is the way that I'm hoping that it's going to go, and that is the way that the builder has told me.
Do you think the buyer will back out if he, because at the end of the day, buyer's broker agreement, at the end of the day, if the seller doesn't want to pay for it, then the buyer's responsible to pay for the agent's commission. So the builder doesn't necessarily have to pay, just like the seller doesn't necessarily have to pay that commission. Of course, they will pay it to make a deal work is the point, right? So in your case,
the builder is only obligated to pay me in my case because they pay off of procurement, not representation.
To pay that. Yeah. So at that point is really
what happens.
I know.
Is the buyer going to pay his agent, or the agent's going to like?
Can the agent sue his buyer?
The agent could get after the buyer because hey, you're entitled, because the agreement, the buyer's broker agreement, is between a buyer and the buyer's broker, right? That's all it is. That's why they changed the car law. So the builder doesn't necessarily have to pay that. They don't need a buyer's broker. No, we don't have to pay you.
They don't, because they don't work on it.
And they're not obligated.
They're like, we don't use car forms.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just a matter like right now. But you know how it is in real estate. Is like
everyone's hungry right now, man.
Everyone's hungry, and we want a deal. The builder they don't want to lose a deal too.
They're not gonna.
Yeah.
So if the buyer's like in, like they're not back out.
They're not gonna. The builder's not gonna back out.
Then the builder doesn't have to like pay.
They're not.
I mean, technically, your agreement is with the builder, so which is all we care about.
Right, and I'm signed in with the builder. The builder signed in.
So
the
you're good. You should
builder's telling me at this point in time, I've never heard of this agent. He just called me this morning, and that's the first time I've ever heard of this guy.
Yeah.
And you did all the negotiation.
Yeah,
and we're at the end.
Negotiating.
So now it's just a matter of if the buyer agent wants a commission, he's just gonna have to go to the buyer. That's what it is now.
Right, that's what it is.
Because it's just like a seller. A seller doesn't have to pay a commission if they don't want to. So no, we're not paying a commission.
Okay.
The important thing that I do want to say about this, though, is that being in that we are in the niche of working with new home builders for most of the business that we do. Mm-hmm. That's just Cruz team. That's not all of your teams here under your brokerage. I understand that, but that's just kind of like our niche product. But there are some builders, and this is what I want other, if there are other real estate agents that are listening to this podcast, that I want them to know that it is very, very important to find out whether the builder themselves are going to require a BRBCA, because I'll tell you who does. KB.
The KB.
KB will tell you, do you have that BRBCA before we go into contract? Because I want to make sure. But Meritage doesn't. They say, no, we don't care about that. We stick to we just pay off a procurement. There's nothing that needs to change. We've never followed car forms. We've never had car forms. All of our forms are vetted by our own attorneys and the DRE, and they've told us that it's okay, so we don't need to abide by the car. So we don't take that. We take all of our own contracts and all of our own forms, and that's how we do our business. So I think it's very important that before, if you're coming in and you have a client that's going in potentially to purchase a new home, that with that specific builder, as an agent, you need to lay out what their process is and whether or not they require that BRBCA up front. I think I'm lucky in this respect that this particular builder doesn't. But if the builder did require that, I wouldn't have that BRBCA form at that point in time. And if this was a resale transaction, I'd be screwed.
Oh, yeah. That's the thing. That's why, like right now, even now, as we're transitioning to getting Zillow leads, that's as of online, because, Zillow wants you to see the house. Most buyers are not going to want to sign when they don't know you. But then moving forward, I want to make sure to cover because at the end of the day, I'm the one that's my money.
Exactly. It's you, yeah.
That's my money.
And it falls on you as a broker,
exactly.
right? I mean, are you?
So that's something that, but at the end of the day, in your case, I think it's just, if the builder stands ground and stands on business, say, no, we're not going to pay you, agent.
That's our policy.
Then the agent is not, if he wants to get money, he's going to have to go to the buyer. That's really what it's going to come to. If he wants to sue the buyer, it's totally up to you. If the builder stands on business, now if the builder we really don't want to lose it.
Yeah,
slow.
I know. That's why. That's why I'm on pins and needles right now.
Right now, I'm assuming you guys have a relationship where
I do.
They're not going to screw you over like that.
Right.
Which I think you should be okay with that, because the builder is the one who's going to pay us, you.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The buyer's agent commission, that's the buyer's responsibility, not any seller or any builder. That's what a buyer's broker agreement is. So, but of course, if the buyer tries to play the game, well, in that case, we're gonna go to Lenore. We're gonna go across the street. Then that's where,
Could the other agent from Trillion, who had signed the BRBCA with him, according to what he told the sales agent, the information that I got this morning is that he had a BRBCA signed with this guy who's active duty military. The customer went on deployment for. Now, I don't know how long he went on deployment for, because our BRBCA is only good for 90 days.
Yeah, depends.
So I don't know how long he went on deployment, but he told this Meritage sales agent that I signed a BRBCA with him, and then he went on deployment, and then he came back. So
when did his expire?
He didn't bring up the date.
Yeah, they probably won't show it.
They won't probably share it.
End of the day, I'll be honest. We know the game. It's probably like, wait a minute. You went to a builder without me? You know how it is.
Yeah.
No.
We signed a BRBCA already.
Yeah, let me get
So
you.
like if you're in his shoes and you're the agent, this is what you'd be saying.
Yeah, exactly. Because now it's like, oh, wait a minute. Like, I forgot.
It's $800,000.
You forget to call. You think, I'm not ready on deployment. Okay, hey, I'll call you back when you're. And then you're like finally calling back. Hey, I see you're back. We're getting ready to put an offer in a builder. Whoa, time out. I want to get my money.
That's what
that's what happened. That's what's happening right now.
Because it's really at the final stages.
Yeah, that's what's happening right now, which I can understand. I'm sure the buyer agent probably thinks he just went to the sales office, doesn't realize that you're like a regular resale agent. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's probably what he's thinking. He's like, wait a minute, you just went to the office, not knowing that you're actually resale doing open house. So he's like, I want to make my money.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect the builder, right?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? That's what the buyer's agent.
And I think that buyers don't really think about that shit.
No, they don't.
To be honest, I think that that's the last thing on their freaking mind.
About that, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I did tell this buyer's agent, I explained to him, I said, because they hit the sales office first and then they hit me at the very end. I'm the last model. So they've gone through every single model and they've talked to the salespeople first. But why I like this is because when they get to me, I'm able to tell them, the sales agents that you met up there, well, guess what? They represent the builder. They don't represent you. They might be nice to you and give you all the information and smile and da-da-da-da-da, of course. And let me tell you, I used to do their job up until very recently. But the difference here is that when you come down to me, I don't represent the builder. I represent you. So all the information that they've given you, it's going to be my job to not leave any money out on the table for you if you want to get one of these homes, because whatever they're offering you, it's my job to try to get more.
Yeah.
Because that's all they're going to tell you that they're going to offer you. But I'm going to tell you right now that we're leaving money out on the table if you don't decide to use an agent that can get you more. And my fee is absolutely zero to you because they paid my fee already. So why wouldn't you want this to be done? So this is when this guy was like, if you can represent me, he text messaged me this. I have it on text, and he says, Derek, if you can represent me, I want to submit an offer that says this, and this. It's on my text message, screenshotted, sent it back to the sales agent to make sure.
You guys registered him too.
I registered him too.
That's all
screenshotted, sent it back to the agent to make sure that she saw that he's asking for me to represent him.
Yeah.
Not only that, but I signed him in.
Yeah,
so here's where I'm like, CYA, cover my ass, right? But then this morning I get that from another agent. So this is the first time that this has ever happened to us.
Because they're just trying to get paid
so,
right now. That's what it is. Which I understand. He's like, wait a minute. Oh, I want to make some money.
I'm sure his broker's telling him, you better go get that shit.
Get the money. That's a builder.
You signed the BRBCA, right? Go get it.
Or let me sign this BRBCA right now. You know what I'm saying? That's what's happening right now, to be honest with you. Yeah, here we go.
Right.
But that's where
it could even be that too.
But for the builder, they don't have the obligation to pay the buyer's broker agreement. They don't. They really don't.
They don't. They don't even have the obligation to, use BRBCA because they don't use car forms anyway. So they can just say we don't.
Even if it says my buyer's broker agreement says 3%, but the builder's only offering 5,000 or something.
They're not going to give them 3%. They're going to be like, I'm sorry. It's just like, this is what it is. I don't care what your BRBCA says.
So hopefully, I'm sure the builder will get your back for that. It's just a matter.
I got to call him next after this.
Yeah, it's just a matter if the buyer is going to play the game and say, okay, then we're going to go across the street and find something else. Which I don't know if they will do that, but that's the only thing that where the builder's like, whoa, we don't want to lose business.
Right.
That's the only thing that I would think that they might like.
And he's got a stellar deal because we've negotiated it down to the point to where like he's got the best deal out of any customer coming in. I think he knows that. I've told him that. I've told him we have worked hard for this deal, and here's where we're at right now. Next step is you got to sign that contract, give the approval, and put the deposit, man, and we're in. You're gonna get keys next month. So that's where we're at right now. But his agent's probably in his ear telling him a ration of shit about you signed that BRBCA with me. So
money talks, right? This is the business. Unfortunately, this is
a business right now. This is the reality of the business of where it gets.
That's to continue.
This is the market that we're in right now. So this is crazy because like Cruz was talking about, she was just up before us, and then I had this when we were coming in here. And I said, I want to talk to Tony about this. And she says everything's not 100% done yet. But then we have this, this venue to where we have an opportunity to talk about it. And I think it's something that's very important to be able to talk about today in today's market, especially what's going on in light of the BRBCA, in light of the interest rates, in light of, builder. I just read Google News just said new home builders in the month of May was the most dismal month across the entire nation that they've ever had, to where they're just building inventory, not selling homes. So it's a tough market out there. But the tougher it gets.
Commission now, right?
Lennar's now paying commission. They're paying $15,000.
They're trying to lose. I don't know which article that was. Lennar's like, they're just trying to get market share at this point.
Yep.
They're like giving so much incentive just so like they can they're not even they're just trying to sell the property. They are whether they make money or not. So at that point. So
but Lennar historically has been the one builder that has done that throughout the 30 or 40 years. They turn that realtor spigot on and off. Yeah. And they really just don't care. They don't care what realtors think about them. They don't care. Some realtors are like, I'll never go back to Lennar. But you know what? Lennar just really doesn't care. They're just like, I don't care. Like, if they need the money, they'll probably end up coming back to us anyway. So when we turn it on, they'll come back anyway. That's their mentality.
So that's
other builders are different. Other builders are like, no, we support realtors no matter what. Yeah. But it's interesting to see that.
So let's transition a little bit here. And I know we have Derek, has a lot of experience in the new build. So for those who don't know really your story and you and Gina's story here, like to make sure our audience share, especially people that don't know you. I know you have about 20 plus years in the new build industry, right? New build?
Yes. So I started, got my real estate license back in 2004, and I came straight out of retail sales management. So I came from Best Buy sales management, and then eventually got recruited over into fully commissioned sales floor over at The Good Guys. They're not around anymore. Those guys used to compete with Circuit City.
They're the bad guys because they're running around.
So it was that was my first foray into 100% commission sales floor, and also being in a lead role where I had control of the sales floor and I had sales associates under me as a sales manager and then eventually an assistant store manager. So I had to deal with a lot of, back in the day in the early 90s, a lot of commission dispute arguments on commission sales floor. And I will tell you that that is probably the best sales experience that you could ever have, period. Because when you have veteran salespeople that have been working on the sales floor for 15 to 20 years who are about to go head to head and say, meet me out in the parking lot because I'm about to kick your ass for taking my sale, you effing snake. And you're having to be the sales manager in between that to like, guys, we got to talk about this. What's going on with the sale? Who's up with this and this and that? That has transitioned into, I guess, like a lot of the sales chops that I have now. You know, not only that, but then also working. I basically got tired of retail sales. I went into real estate, and for a number of years I did real estate, and then for a number of years I got out and I owned my own business. But there's a lot of things that have happened that have been able to help me get my sales chops, and it's all been just in every single career that I've had. But I mean, in real estate, you can put all of that together, and really, if you're good at, you know, what you do as a salesperson, you can make a really pretty good living out of it. You know, you can really help solve a lot of people's needs, and that's the greatest thing, is that, like, you know, here there's a big difference between selling computers and you know, just like electronic equipment, than making a difference and getting people into their dream homes. You know, I mean, there's a big difference, and I wanted something in my life to where I could make a difference with people. So that's why I got into it, and we've been in it ever since. I did new homes for 22 years or so, and we were fortunate enough to do real well in that. And Gina's did resale here. She's going on 8 years now, and we always wanted to do a husband and wife team. And after 20 plus years of just kind of me seeing the writing on the wall, and it's just me seeing the economy changing now, you know, here within the last 2 years.
Your last chance.
I'm 49, so I'm gonna be 50 here in a year, and I've done 20 plus years of new home sales, and I've never done resale. But I've seen people get into the resale side after being in new home sales and position themselves when it's the right time to do so in the market. And I think right now that there's a huge change in our economy. There's a huge change in the market. There's going to be a huge disruption in our industry with AI coming, and the time to do this is now. So that's why Cruz team is positioning themselves. We started a year ago. We've been a little over a year at this point in time. We haven't missed a beat, and we're excited about the next 5, 7, 8 years, or whatever it is it needs to be before this goes bust.
Yeah, that's it. So Gina, you're not tired of working with this guy every day yet, man?
No, not.
I mean, huh?
No, I'm with him 24/7.
Yeah.
So now he's my best friend.
That's
so.
awesome. So how's it work, husband and wife team? How's that? You know, what are some of the challenges? Or I'm sure somebody is, you know, wants a good cop, bad cop. What's the dynamics here? In a real estate transact, what's that dynamic? How does this work? So
you know, I think it's
husband and wife.
I think it's funny because initially when I was getting out of the corporate world after 20 some years, I was telling.
But make him shorter, babe. Because
I was telling everybody that I was going to be out of here, and I said, I can talk a long time.
Yeah,
but the main thing is I told everybody that I was going to work with my wife, and I was going to start a business and work with my wife. And the question that they had for me was, are you going to work with your wife full time? Like every day? And I said, yeah, every day. And they're like, you mean like, so like on your days off when you're home with your wife, but then when you need to go to work, you'll see your wife on your days off, but then you'll see your wife again at like 4 of those work days. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, that's too much. They're like, I come to work to get away from my wife.
Mm-hmm. So people have work wives. So your work wife is your wife.
Yeah. I used to have a work husband
It's
too.
so funny because like, yeah, and I've had a work wife, and you know, she's had a work husband and everything, but we've always been really good friends, and we've always had a really good marriage, and maybe that's uncommon, but I tell everybody that, you know, like I know that it doesn't work for everybody, but it works for us, and you know, I actually enjoy spending time with her.
Yeah.
I don't get tired of her for some weird. We do fight though, which is weird. So we don't have a perfect relationship. but I'd rather be with her than not with her.
Yeah.
Even if we're fighting, because that's just who we are.
You'd rather fight with her than anybody else.
Exactly.
Exactly. Love is,
Exactly. And at the end of the day,
that's it's love.
at the end of the day, the net is positive, and we're doing good, and we're successful, and we're happy, and we love each other.
What about you, Jenna? What are you gonna say about that? Huh?
Yeah, we do get along. I mean, when you ask us what are our issues, I think the second year is finding boundaries, because there's things that, let's say, he'd want me to do, but I'm not good at. So I'll be like, no, I'm gonna stick to what I know and I'm good at, and you're gonna stick to what you're good at. And there's certain things he's like, but you should do this, because so then we can be better, because we're doing it as a team. It's us as a team. And I said, yeah, but if I was hired at a third party or somebody else, if there's something I don't want to do, I don't want to do it. I'm not gonna work for you. I will quit. So I have my boundaries, and these are my rules. These are the things I would do. Yeah. But you can't force me to do it just because we're partners. Because I think husband and wife is great, but I gotta shut that off. I go, you have to shut that off. So even though I say we're workday, we work together, but we're more working. We put that, what do you call it, hat on, and that we're working, and that he can't tell me and use it against me if I didn't want to do a certain thing. But we've got it down. I say there's certain things I want to do that I'm willing to do as a real estate, and there's things that he tells me that I'm not going to do. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of times it's a compromise
he's like,
too.
Why don't you want to do that? Because it's our business. Well, I don't want to do that. I'm not good at that. You're faster at doing it, so you should do it. Just like if you had a partner at your old company that you work with, if there's certain things that she doesn't want to do, you can't make her do it. Well, I'm the same way. There's certain things I'm going to do. I'm going to do it my way. But if you don't like it, then maybe we're not.
And then she's going to report you to her HR.
Yeah.
We're like, I'm going to HR. But
who's the HR here, though?
Yeah.
Me.
And that's the funniest thing is that there is no HR, but at the end of the day, I mean,
No, but then we compromise. He understands, and
it's the I think
once we got that down, because it took us a year to figure that out, and kind of like, well, you need to do this. You need to kind of picking on each other, and I'm like, no, that's not what I got into this,
Yeah, it's like,
I go,
it was like,
my
what's
old
your
partner
role?
when I told him what I will do and I will not do.
Yeah.
I go, I'm gonna do the same thing with you. So, but at home, whatever, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we get along. So, we love each other, so we respect each other's space. Yep. Each other's opinion, each other's time, all that stuff. So
that's awesome. Yeah.
So,
it's really about just, I think, defining the roles up front.
Yeah.
But being married, sometimes emotions do get in the way. So even though you have those roles defined, sometimes emotions get in the way and they can be clouded, and then there's minor things. But it's always, whenever we get into that situation and we're like, it's like, we're working still, but we're turning into like husband and wife, when we should be like, we should be like employees of our company, because I mean,
so that's what I tell him.
And this is true. So you have to be able to shut that out. Like let's take the emotion out of this. Let's just this is purely business, what we're dealing with right now, and let's go ahead and treat it as that. And then when we get home and we shut this off, if we want to deal with this on a personal, emotional level, we'll talk about it then.
Yeah, then it's different.
But you know what? 9 times out of 10. There's nothing to talk about, because it's already worked out. Because when we have that, it's at the end of the day, it's like everything was worked out, and at the end, it's like there's nothing to talk about, because it's all good.
With your spouse? What is wrong with you guys?
That's what we do. We love each other enough to be like, But at the end of the day, we have the same goal. It's just we, as different humans, we all do it differently, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but
that's awesome, guys. So. Well, I mean, we'll wrap this up here. Well, thank you guys. Any last words? Anything you want to share about the real estate market? What your or what the goals for the Cruz team here in the next coming year?
I really think it. For anybody to be successful today in real estate, first of all, if anybody's out there and they're doing real estate right now, you guys are in the top 1%. If you're still actually working real estate and you've got active transactions right now, congratulations to you, because you are in the top 1%. Most real estate agents today have got nothing going on, or there's just nothing business out there, or they're just completely given up. But what it's really about is that, it's consistency. And, maybe not for everybody, but Cruz team, we're 100% full-time real estate agents, but I think in a time like today, that is what's needed to be successful. So we're here thick and thin, and we're going to be here, when times are tough, and we're also going to be here when times are good. So regardless, we're here. Cruz Team Realty.
There you go. Well, you heard it from the Cruz Team Realty. So, Derek, Gina, thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Yes.
Excited for your you two's journey. And here you go. You can have your journey
She doesn't
here.
drink much.
And, definitely you've added a lot of value to AVM Real Estate Services. I'm very fortunate to have you guys here. I'm looking to see a lot more great stuff from you guys. And we're going to make a lot of money.
Yes, we are.
Moving forward. And, stay tuned to our next podcast in Vegas. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying? Hey.
absolutely.
All right, that's it, guys.
Yay.
Have a good one.